Guess who's back? Back again. Jersey Joe's back. Somebody tell a friend. He is back for a two-part crossover as we're going to talk about free agency and potential trade rumors for New Jersey Devils. And Jersey Joe also is going to give us some insight for some of the Devils' top prospects and what the future holds for the Devils organization. It was too much to jam into one episode, so once again, this is going to be a part 2 crossover. Part 2 will be posted tomorrow, but I hope you enjoy part 1. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, and also Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, Trey Matthews. I am joined alongside my friend, who should really be my co-host at this point, recurring guest of this show. It's Jersey Joe. Jersey Joe, how are we feeling today? There's so much going on these last couple weeks for the Devils. You know, we talked about your boy, Simone Nemets. We talked about basically the possibilities of what the New Jersey Devils can do going forward. We did this huge Twitter space with the Bratt Pack, Devils State of Mind, Pucks and Pitchforks, every Devils personality out there. And here we are right now. Could we get Matthew Tkachuk? Kind of a long shot, but, you know, we'll see what happens. But Jersey Joe, where do we start?
All right. First off, I want to say hello to everybody. Welcome back from the Twitter spaces from the New Jersey Devils Family Cooperative of Entertainment. So I know that's a mouthful, but you know this. I just tweeted out just a few minutes back that not cap friendly, but Evolving Hockey actually projects Matthew Tkachuk to have an 8-year, $11.5 million contract. Meanwhile, Jasper Bratt's looking at for a 4-year deal and a projected over $5 million. Now, with that being said, with ongoing arbitration rights and all that stuff, do we think Bratt will settle for that money? Maybe, maybe not. But will there be some performance bonuses thrown in there? Absolutely.
I say this. Okay, so I said this in a recent episode. I said that I think Bratt's going to ask anywhere in the $6 million range just because he sees Kevin Fiala's deal. He sees what Alex DeBrincat could potentially get. He saw Brock Besser's deal. So I think that's where we stand with Jasper Bratt. Obviously, when we're doing this recording, Bratt is still unsigned. Arbitration hearing has not occurred, doesn't occur until late July. Usually it's very rare that it gets to the hearing process. But I said it in a recent episode, which I don't think this is like a red flag for New Jersey Devils. I just think this is just a way to get the ball rolling even more. And Bratt and the Devils organization is just sitting down and just basically like, okay, we want a deal. But now that Matthew Tkachuk is possibly out of Calgary, it's not confirmed, but the writing is on the wall. I said it in a silly season episode. My expectation, let's not focus on Matthew Tkachuk because I feel as though we're just falling into that same pit that we did just a few days ago with Johnny Gaudreau, which was we were like, okay, we're only one of few teams that can that could obtain Gaudreau, and look what happened. We got burned. So it's like, let's not put all our eggs in one basket. Let's just focus on the priorities at hand, which is get Jasper Bratt back, and then we'll work from there. Obviously, I would love to have Matthew Tkachuk on this team, but the chances of him coming to the New Jersey Devils, while it is hypothetically possible, I just don't think it's likely.
I will say this from a recent post by Matt Junio, a good buddy of mine from Pucks and Pitchforks, your fellow writer. I have to agree with him. It's a blessing in disguise because it could have ended up being like a Mike Camilleri albatross. And I will say this, I have to agree. And who knows if Gaudreau wanted to play with New Jersey. I know he had the spit and chicklets thing. I don't buy it one bit because
according to Ryan Novozinski, he said that in one of his more recent articles, he said that basically Johnny Gaudreau was trying to work out a deal with the New Jersey Devils because the Flyers weren't budging. They couldn't get the money to obtain him. But then Columbus just swooped in at the last second and just said, like, we got a contract for you. And he told his agent, I want to go there. So, you know, when we say Columbus was a wild card team in the Johnny Gaudreau sweepstakes, they were an absolute wild card. No one was projecting Johnny Gaudreau to go to Columbus. I bet Columbus fans themselves weren't projecting to get Johnny Hockey, but at the last minute, they swooped in and signed him. So I believe, well, you know, there's a lot of conflicting reports, but I do honestly, genuinely believe that the Devils did have a better chance than what people are giving them credit for, because I'm sure his top option were the Flyers, but, you know, New Jersey, technically, I know he's from South Jersey and he associates more with Philadelphia because that's when you live in like South Jersey where he's from, like I believe he grew up in Salem, which is about not too long a drive from Philadelphia compared to Newark. He has more association with the city of Philly than he does with Newark. So, but at the end of the day, New Jersey is still his hometown state. And, you know, when people say like, well, would he want to play with his rival or something like that? There are probably a good amount of athletes who ended up playing with a rival team, like in the future, like maybe they grew up idolizing one team, but they ended up playing for, you know, their favorite team's rival. Like, you know, if the fit is correct, then why not? Like, it's like, you know, growing up, I love the Detroit Tigers. They were my favorite baseball team. And if I was to make it to the MLB, who was I guess as a kid, our biggest rival were the Cleveland Guardians, formerly called the Cleveland Indians when I was growing up. If the Cleveland Indians were to offer me a contract, hypothetically, I would be an idiot not to take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
technically, Cleveland is close to Detroit, you know?
Right. And also you could have played for the Toronto Blue Jays. But anyways, we're not a baseball podcast.
Yeah, no. Just giving that example. I used to play college ball. Just giving that example.
I used to play a little bit from high school ball, but played a lot of like middle school and recreational baseball with Nick Ahmed. And we're both a year apart, but I stayed back a year. So we played T-ball together, and we're a few years older than Frank Vetrano, the New York Rangers from East Long Meadow. So that's kind of why it was pretty hard for me to root for Vetrano when he joined the Blue Shirts. But anyways, we're not a Blue Shirts podcast. Yeah, I'm just talking about another Massachusettsian.
Yeah, we're getting a little off track. So basically, Johnny Gaudreau could have signed with the New Jersey Devils, didn't, went to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and now here we are like a week or two later with an opportunity to possibly get his teammate Matthew Tkachuk, who also had a very good season with Calgary. And he and Johnny Gaudreau were a two-headed monster up in Calgary. Like they were the top point getters for their respective team. And I'm just like, look, I would love Matthew Tkachuk. And I think he and Tom Fitzgerald are in fact family. I think they are related. I believe they're cousins.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Okay, good. I knew for a fact they were family. I just didn't know in what aspect. So they're cousins.
So here's how it works. You have the father being Keith Tkachuk, and then you have his cousin Tom Fitzgerald on the Irish side, and then you have Mr. Tkachuk himself is Ukrainian American. So on that paternal side, he is indeed Ukrainian American, and then you have that other half being the Irish end, and that's the Fitzgerald Hayes line. So that is why Jimmy and Kevin Hayes are all related to the Fitzgeralds in that sense. Now, back to the Tkachuks, the way it's pronounced back in Ukraine. It's the way you look at Keith's kid and Matthew. He plays like his father. He's a power forward, big, burly guy, Sasquatchy, good skater, power moves. If you look at his advanced stats I sent out to you guys on Twitter, you'll see a few days back before I went up north for a little bit, you'll see why I called him elite, because he's in that high percentile, that 90 percentile that most players do not fetch. And he's also a really good defender as well. So that makes him even more coveted. And that's why he's going to get paid more money, along with being a finisher and someone who does well in the playoffs as well.
Look, like I said, I would love to have Tkachuk on this team. I just don't like what are the chances that we get him? Like, I feel like we have the assets, and according to my friends at Pucks and Pitchforks, we have the money, but we're going to have to be a little, how would I say it, unique with it. We're going to have to be creative with it on how we like make enough room to get Tkachuk, and what would the trade package look like? So I would presume that the first round draft pick in next year's draft is going to have to play a factor. Jasper Bratt.
You mean this year? You mean this year in 2023 is going to have to be top 10 protected? You might have to throw in Jasper Bratt. You might have to throw in Mackenzie Blackwood.
I said that. I said that in my silly season episode. I said that first round draft pick, Mackenzie Blackwood, Jasper Bratt, and who else did I say? I think I said a third person, maybe Dawson.
Andreas Johnson.
I don't think it was Andreas Johnson, but definitely that's also a factor.
Damon Severson throw in there.
Damon Severson. There we go. Damon Severson. There.
He's from the Alberta, Saskatchewan area, so it makes sense for a Western Canadian to be back in there, who's a good right-hand defenseman.
The thing is like, I think we would have to trade Damon Severson to get some, draft picks, and then use those draft picks to get Tkachuk. So like get a third team involved.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be similar to the Kyle Turris situation, except not be that atrocious. That's why we really don't see many third way deals happen. It's because you just don't know how it all breaks down evenly. So back to what we were talking about between the Bratt and Tkachuk situation. If Bratt does say yes to a deal, I see Damon Severson getting dealt. Why? Because we got John Marino in that deal recently, sending Ty Smith. And you and I both said it last time around, where Ty Smith should be sleeping with one eye open, gripping his pillow tight. And I know I'm saying that's because of Enter Sandman. But, if I was making a cut list, like I said to you a while back, Ty Smith does not make my cut. And I live by it. And I'm proven right. You're proven right.
Thing is, like, I didn't like Ty Smith, and you're correct about that, but I didn't think we would give up on him this early. Like, he's still very young and could still develop into something special. It's not like he was Zaka and has been playing for a while, and it's just at this point a lost cause.
Right. But at the same time, you're playing the return on equity game. So the Devils saw a potential in moving him. Meanwhile, you have all these other defensemen banging on, the hiring door, per se. Like Nikita Ohotu could easily be banging right in preseason to take that spot. Kevin Ball's there.
Yeah.
Luke Hughes. So really, you got these guys saying, listen, Fitz, I really want that job. Get me in.
Before we continue with today's episode, I want to bring you guys the first and only live read this morning, and it comes from our friends at BetOnline. So BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, NASCAR, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sport wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have everything you need. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please remember to gamble responsibly and visit our friends at Locked On Bets for all your betting needs there as well. Okay, let's get back to our discussion with Jersey Joe. Take it away. That is correct, because we were talking about, like, at the conclusion of the season, we were talking about some players who could potentially make the roster. I would say that Kevin Ball, Nikita Ohotuk would be bubble players, not guaranteed to make the roster, but definitely have a legitimate chance depending on how they do in preseason, training camp, all that. Simon Nemets, it's just like, I'm not trying to rush the kid or anything. He could definitely have an impact for the New Jersey Devils on the defensive side of things. I do want to see him improve on his offensive game a little bit, because I know he did well on the offensive side of things during his playoff run, but during the season and during his years of playing overseas, it was like he didn't generate that many goals. So I would like to see him improve in that regard.
Right. I know it's going to sound like a silly season thing, but I see Dougie Hamilton coming back, playing at least a minimum of 62 games, maybe 75 games. and getting between 35 and 50 points. And I would be very happy to see him break into that 18 goal mark if he can be that power play guy. And Marino, I like to see him be the guy that increases the productivity on the penalty kill and helps Lindy Ruff fight another day every other game. So plus we got Brunette, who's the power play coach and the offense coach.
Associate assistant coach.
And heir apparent to Lindy Ruff. So with that being said, I'm not saying we're going to fire him.
I got to ask you this question. Do you think Andrew Brunette is set to take Lindy Ruff's position? Because I'm not sure if you listened to one of my episodes or not, but I mentioned you in it. And I said that you see Lindy Ruff moving over to maybe moving over to like development coach or a scout or working in the front office in some sort of honorary role. And you got Andrew Brunette, who's had success with the Florida Panthers. Maybe he's set to be the next head coach for New Jersey Devils next year when Lindy Ruff's contract expires. Do you see that happening potentially?
Yeah, I do see the writing on the wall. It may not be right now. Now, if things wet the bed, at least you'll have the situation Brunette did when John Quenneville had a certain situation. Need I bring up the Kyle Beach situation, which is a very touchy subject for that community. So anyways, I think Brunette is set to become the long-term Devils head coach. And with him being a Jack Adams guy, I believe he will be the man who will grow the daddy pants per se and wear them again and get the Devils back to where they need to be, contending and pressing on every other player's buttons. And if you don't press each player's buttons, whether it's a Dougie Hamilton or a Marino or a JeanGabriel, who knows if JeanGabriel does get moved in a package to bring home a better player, but the Devils definitely need to keep on building that top 3, top 4 lines. Now, let's say Zetterlund gets re-signed. We get Wood back. We get Palat rolling. You have just about everyone who's a finisher, big, strong guy, clutch guy, can play the dirty work to, keep teams like the Rangers at bay. We can win a good 1.5 points per game, maybe 2 points on most nights if goaltending is getting a breather from the defense. I'm breathing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Devils were as bad as people made them out to be. They just got very unlucky. You put on your hat too. Got to put on my thinking cap, guys. Team USA. Got to rep Jack Hughes in some sort of association. Now,
mine's in there.
I don't think the Devils are as bad as people have made them out to be. I just feel as though if you're a casual fan, you see their record, you see the overall stats, you're just like, this is a terrible team. But diehard fans who watch the games religiously, like you and me, we know that's not really the case. We know that in reality, and I know a lot of teams had to deal with COVID. I know a lot of teams have dealt with injury, but I feel as though the Devils would be in a much, much, much better position had they not had to deal with any of that. Because look what happened in late December and also January. Rally cap time, really?
Yeah, I got to, because you know what's going to happen. Devils are going to play a lot of offense, and it's going to help score some go-ahead goals, and it's going to allow guys like Vitek Vanacek. And the reason why I did the rally cap is because the Devils are going to have a big, fruitful season offensively, thanks to Brunette. And it's not going to be like you're going to deal with Mark Recchi like from last year. You can't get any worse than that. It's just nuts. But I may look nuts, but the ideas of the thinking cap, the rally cap, will help. And if Devils fans can do the rally cap at the game, I think they should.
I think we're going to be much better. I think it's going to be a big offensive year for the Devils because offense wasn't really their problem. It was defense, I would like to say. Because they couldn't stop anyone. Like I said it in a show, you can't score 5 goals and then give up 6. Like if you score 5 goals, it's just like, that's a really great offensive unit. That's actually really great. I would argue and say that the Devils were one of the best offensive teams in the entire league from December through January. Quite honestly, I don't know the exact metric, but I believe they weren't really far off. They scored a lot of goals during that time span, and all that had to be credited towards Jack Hughes, what he was able to do, Nico Hischier stepping up his game. But what happened was goaltending. Like, if we scored 5 goals, our goaltenders would give up 6. So it's just like our offense carried our load. Now it's just like with Vitek Vanecek, him signed to a 3-year deal. It's just like, how is this going to work out? Because I said out of all the goalies the Devils probably had on their radar, from Braden Holtby, Darcy Kemper, Vitek Vanecek, Billy Husso, I said Billy Husso and Vitek Vanecek would be the more realistic options for the Devils to pursue. And we got Vitek Vanecek in a trade, signed him to a 3-year deal. Some people are happy about it. Some people are not so happy about it. I personally think signing him to 3 years for what we're paying him, I think that's actually a pretty good deal and a pretty good investment for the New Jersey Devils. Now we just got to see how he translates his game from Washington, D.C. to New Jersey, just because, we're not the Capitals. Like, he's not working with the Capitals. So the Capitals are a playoff team. We're a rebuilding team on the come up.
Yeah, there's a springboard effect, and you're talking about it right now. And the way I believe is that the Devils have a really good system. If Mackenzie Blackwood can stay healthy, and barring any heel injury stuff.
I think Lindy Ruff or Tom Fitzgerald stated that Mackenzie Blackwood is now healthy.
Well, that's what we hope so. I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, I'll listen to what the higher-ups say, but for me, from the fan and scout perspective, you don't want the injury bug to come back. And if we have the right kind of voodoo going, the good juju, that'll be great, because now maybe the Devils can get some really important wins up their sleeves. And we heard in the Twitter space where, how are we going to make up for those last 37 points? Well, the Devils could easily cut that back just by having, let's say, 18 of those going towards Vanecek, and then maybe a couple extra of the others go towards Mackenzie Blackwood stealing some games. Now, with that being said, they might need Nico Daws to come in when, let's say, if everything's good and gravy, they can give the 2 guys a night off and allow Daws to step in for a few games and be like,
which I'm cool with. Because
I'm
cool with that.
I mean, I'm not Tom Fitzgerald, but I'm just saying is if the Devils make it past American and Canadian Thanksgiving and they're in the top 16, not in the draft lottery, I'm talking in the playoff hunt in the East. This is where you want to be, in that top 8, because if you're in that top 16, you're doing good. And when you're in the top 8 of the East, don't worry, because your odds of making it is almost 80%. Now, if the Devils can keep healthy, or somewhat like Pittsburgh last year, and have a lot of depth and keep on rolling, then we'll be just fine. I mean, I'm more optimistic this year, but I'm still being cautious. But I'm not like pessimistic. We're going to lose because we have a bad goalie situation.
You see that fan who announced his retirement from the Devils organization?
Yeah.
What a bum.
Sore loser. You know what? Le Hugh ze her. That's what Jim Carrey once said on Ace Ventura.
What a freaking bum.
Le Hugh ze her.
Well,
that's just me.
I would have to agree with you. And I think a lot of Devils fans agree with you in that sort of sense. But what's the pipeline looking like for the Devils in terms of young guys? Who are you expecting to have an impact?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Devils per se, you look at the guys that are on the cap friendly. So let me give a little side note to some people who haven't listened to Shakir Muhammadulin. So Muhammadulin is going to spend another year back on loan in Salavat Ulayev rather. So Salavat Ulayev has his loan contract, and he's still on an ELC with the Devils. So he just needs a little bit more time. I mean, remember the Russian calendar is a little different from the Julian calendar, where it's a Gregorian one. So the season starts a little earlier in the KHL. So I really see Muhammadulin doing just fine. I don't see him having a down year. And if he does, it's likely because of the situation in Russia economically. But other than that, Devils fans should be more focused on, if they're looking at the right-handed defense core, look at Riley Walsh. He's the slap shot guy. He's the guy that
Fox's teammate at Harvard.
Exactly. And he's the type of guy you want to have. I mean, he's going to be better than Mark Fane. But I will say this, Tobias Vielend, if he has a really good camp, who knows if he stays at the college route or he goes and plays in the minors, but his status says in the minors. So Michael Vukovic, another good bruiser, good physical guy, he can, be a good scorer from time to time, but I think he's not too far off from being a bubble guy that gets to the NHL. So if the young Croat Canadian can pull it off, I would be very happy to see him do it. I mean, he's only 19 years of age? No, 21. So, I mean, he's not too far off, but defensemen take a little time. So I think he's just on the cusp. And I think if he just starts in Utica and he gets called up, that's wonderful if he can steal some games. But another guy is, of course, we talked about the big Sasquatch himself, Hercules, Kevin Ball, the big ball guy, long stride,
big baller brand,
balldozer, balls out,
Bob the
bulldozer.
Yeah, there we go.
I know, tongue twister.
I tried,
but he's got that long reach. Like, to me, he's like our version of Zdeno Chara. That size, that reach, that stick. He can bomb it if he wants, and he had a fun time against Arizona where he used to be drafted by. So if he can play like he did like that, I would be freaking happy to be a coach of his, or even his own father, if that was the case. But the one guy that I really love the most out of these guys is Nikita Tkachuk. The kid is a big bruiser. And if Tom Fitzgerald tells you to settle down, then my favorite song for him is "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Let the Bodies Hit the Floor."
I would scream it, but I don't want to break my microphone.
But I think the Devils should really have a theme song every time he hip checks someone and just ruins the guy's career. So, I mean, the Chelyabinsk Russian native, he's really got a lot going with his career. I know he just got on his honeymoon, and congratulations, Nikita. I really want you to succeed with this team. So, with that being said, the Devils got so many young guys I have to go back to evolving hockey, where you got so many kids that are going to become up and coming on ELCs later this year, where the Devils will be like, hey, it's time to get player so-and-so, on a contract. Meanwhile, that first guy is going to be Luke Hughes. And we do not need to rush him, nor Simon Nemec, or I like to say Shimon Nemec back in Slovensko or Slovakia. So
you were the first person to get correct. First person to get it correct. because they said
exactly.
They said Simon Nemec at the draft, and then that's what everyone was calling him. And then he said, "No, my name is Simone Nemec."
That's the English version. That's the I'm a North American now, but when you're back in Europe, like I'll say this, my last name is Stanislaw in the States, but when I introduce myself in Polish, I'm Stanislav. But if I'm talking to another Lithuanian, I refer to myself as Stanislavich from my great grandparents. That's just me talking about the immigrant side. So just a little FYI for the listeners.
Okay, so I need to get your opinion on John Marino. What do you think he can bring? Because he doesn't bring much offense.
Defense first. If you look at his highlights, he's there to ruin the shooting lane for the shooter. So he's a good shooting lane expert, very good skater, someone who knows what it takes to come up clutch in the most important of times, whether it's playing against the teams like the Capitals, the Islanders, the Rangers, you name it. He's lived it, and he's gotten to the playoffs. He's dealt with being around guys with Chris Letang, and Letang is more minded, so he's had to pair with different guys with the Penguins. And he's going to be someone who's 25 years old, but he's starting to become more solidified as a young veteran. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but he's evolving into being that right-handed defenseman who is not a Ben Lovejoy. So let's take it at that, where he has a higher ceiling than when Lovejoy was like maybe 5-6 years later. But the guy can skate, he can be physical, and you want guys who hear you chanting kill, bump, kill, bump, kill during the games. You want to hear that.
And we're going to have to leave it there for today, Joe. So Jersey Joe will be back in tomorrow's episode for part 2 of our discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed part 1. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode alongside with Jersey Joe. Thanks for listening once again.